If you're an Australian service-based business owner, there's a very, very good chance that whenever you open your phone, you open Instagram, my mug pops up and just starts shouting and swearing at you and telling you to enroll in the With You program. It's actually quite funny because whenever I go to business networking events, I get a lot of, "You look really familiar." I'm like, "Yeah, I get that a lot." And we spend, at the moment, anywhere between $3,000 and $4,500 a day on Facebook and Instagram ads. We get approximately a 4x return on ad spend for that. I always love arguing with people in the comments where it's like, "Man, if you spend $90,000 to $120,000 a month on ads, that's such a big expense." But like, yeah, it's my favorite fucking thing to spend money on. If you had a machine that you put $1 in and every buck you put in, you got $4 out, how much money are you doing to put in that thing? It's my favorite fucking thing to spend money on. And to be clear as well, like we used to spend, like when it was just me, I used to spend like anywhere from like $75 to $150 a day. But obviously because we're trying to get call bookings and I'm running the business as well, there's only so much availability in my calendar. So what I want to talk about in this video is some of the 3 key lessons that I've learned from scaling from $75 a day on Meta to $4,500 a day on some periods of time. So the first thing you need to do is maintain lead quality, because typically what will happen is Facebook, I should be saying Meta, I'm going to call it Facebook, get f***ed. Facebook is actually an incredibly superhuman alien piece of technology when it comes to predicting human behavior. Now, when you're spending like small amounts of money, what it will do is it will go, all right, here's a new advertiser. I want to incentivize them to keep spending more on ads. So it will give you the people that are like furthest, like closest to becoming a customer. And so when you first start running ads, you're like, man, all these people are like super qualified. They don't even know who I am. But it's like Facebook just knows how to read everyone's mind. It goes, yeah, here's the people that you're trying to sell this, your landing page is talking about this, your ads talking about this, you're targeting these people. These people look like they're the closest to become, customers in this kind of offer. I'll give you those people first. And so when you're spending like small amounts of money, you typically get placed there. Then what happens is you start spending a little bit more money, and then it goes, okay, cool, I'm gonna go to slightly colder audiences, right? And then what happens is you start fucking bowling on ads like I do, just absolutely letting it rip. And then it just goes to colder and colder audiences when you start spending more money. And so down here, like we used to get, like if I was spending like $75 a day, I'd get like a 20x or a 30x sometimes return on ad spend. And so you get a really high return on ad spend there. It would go down a little bit here. And then when you start really, really spending, you'll get to like 3 or like 4x. Like I have some mentors and stuff in the United States that are spending like $10,000, $20,000 a day. They're getting a 2x return on ad spend, but they're happy with 2x because they're getting 2 on 20, right? They're doing 40 grand a day. Whereas down here, let's just say spending like, I don't know, $1,000 a month and you get 20x on that. It's like, well, great. Now you made like $20,000, right? Whereas up here, I'm spending like $4,000 a day and I'm getting 4x on that, so I'm getting 16K a day, right? And so it becomes this math game you got to do, right? But the main point that I want to make here is as you start spending more, you reach colder and colder audiences, and you have to communicate with them differently, because as you go further up this funnel, there's more mental hurdles that you've got to encounter, right? They're probably not problem aware. Or not as problem aware. They're not as solution aware. They probably haven't seen you as many times. They're not just like buy ready, like right now. They want to buy something later. And so you've got to start embedding things into your marketing to actually address the new kind of psyche of the people that you're speaking to, right? So there's a couple ways that you do that. Firstly, it's the content of the landing pages. I'll just put LPs. The content of the landing page is like your video sales letter has to change. You've got to have more testimonials. You've got to have also contextualized testimonials. Like I'll talk about that with the nurtures. Let's say, for example, you're running like our offer, which is like B2B, and you have people from different industries. If you've got so many people coming through and 10% of them are in education and 10% of them are in home services and 10% of them are in like B2B financial services, you don't want to be sending every single testimony you have to all those people. You want to segment them and contextualize them. So if someone says they're in education and training, I want to send them education and training testimonials, right? So you've got to be having these different conversations. There's also like increased levels of skepticism. So for example, if you're talking to your sales team, and I'll talk about building a sales team in the next point. When you're talking to your sales team, they're going to say things like, yeah, like they haven't heard of us before. They're more skeptical, even though we've got all of these testimonials, their guard's just a little bit up. And so you need to start embedding stuff in the marketing that actually addresses that. For example, one of my best running ads right now actually says like, hey, this is hard and you shouldn't do it. Here's all the reasons why you shouldn't work with us. And it's actually like our best performing ad, right? So you need to have different conversations. And all of this feedback is going to come from mostly your sales team, because the other problem as well is there's no fucking way in hell I'd be able to spend $4,000 a day on ads if it was just my calendar, because I could spend $4,000 a day on ads, but no one's gonna be able to fucking book, right? And that's the other problem is most business owners, when they're just starting out, they're doing all of the sales. And so the main bottleneck is if they just go on holiday or they go sick or the sales stop and no cash is coming in anymore, right? Because the other problem is like all the money is tied to the business owner's time. So however much white space there is in your calendar directly impacts how much money you can actually make. And so what you need to do is build a sales team and actually de-link your time from your money. Now, to build a sales team, I've fucked it up in the past a couple different ways. And so I'll give you some of the main things that you should really, really avoid. Firstly, you need a sales system, which is like your business way of selling. You can't just, because as a business owner, because you know like your product and your customer really, really well, you kind of sell intuitively, but you can't teach intuition, right? And so you need a like packaged up, bottled up way, like, hey, so first we do this, then you ask these kinds of questions. This is how you pitch the offer. So you need I'm gonna write replicable sales process. Because if you can get a replicable sales process, you can get away with getting, lower experienced sales reps as long as they just follow the process. When your sales process isn't as clearly well defined, that's when you need to get more experienced sales reps to make up for the fact that you can't clearly articulate a process to them. And so they've got to take their experience from previous industries, previous offers, bring it into this and improve on the sales process that you never bothered to make for them, right? So as long as you'd have a really solid sales process, just do this next step in the sales process, barely matters like who you get, as long as it's just someone that can follow a process, you'll do pretty well. Now, I actually get asked sometimes, like, where do I find my sales reps? I run fucking ads for them. So there's a couple different channels you can use to actually recruit sales reps. Number one, I actually run ads. So what I actually do is I duplicate the funnel with you, and then I'll change out the VSL to show like what their on-target earnings could be, what their calendars look like, what the show rates look like, just all these numbers, just because sales reps, especially like high-ticket sales reps, they just want to know the math and how much money they can make, right? And so I run ads, I target people interested in sales, and then my ad is literally just like scrolling through my sales team's calendar, look how full their calendars have been for the last couple of months, because a lot of sales reps in previous, like other offers, the main number one pain point is just their calendar is just like, I got one booking today and it's probably going to no-show, right? Whereas when you've got someone like me coming in and saying, hey, I've got a hot offer that's selling really, really well, like my team's calendar looks like this, you just come in and say, they're like, cool, I'm just going to jump ship to this, right? And if you're one of those people that's like, well, what if my offer's not like really, really good? Spend some time making it really, really, really good. The other way you can do is referrals from other sales reps. Now, this can only really work when you know a couple of different sales reps, but sales reps just hang out with other sales reps. It's just like one of those things. Like me and Tim are friends, but we just talk about sales if we ever hang out, right? So referrals from other sales reps. Give you a couple pro tips. Should I say this? This is going to piss some people off. Don't get anyone with real estate sales experience. They're the fucking worst salespeople on earth. They're so bad. Like, I don't care. Like, they're like, I remember Tim was like trying to buy his home. He's like wanting to buy the house, and the real estate agent was just taking like so long to get back to him. It was just being so difficult. I was just like, do you want the fucking money or not? So some industries that I do like, car sales. Car sales people are fucking animals. They're just ultra competitive. There's also some like tests that you can do in your like interviews, right? So firstly, I assess for skills straight off of the bat, but you also want to test for like, hey, is this person gonna like burn my reputation for a company? And so what I'll do is just ask them some questions. It's kind of difficult to explain, but I'll ask like second and third order consequence questions that figure out what their character is like. For example, you want someone that is like loyal and like has good ethics and morals. And so if I see someone single, sorry, if they have a girlfriend, sorry, I'll be like, okay, so what do you do on the weekend? Like, you go out, have some like beers with the boys and stuff like that. And if like, oh yeah, like I like going out with my mates and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, just like, do you miss her come out, or like she doesn't know what you do when you're out? And then just trying to figure out like what they're like on the weekend when no one's watching. Because how someone does something is how they do everything else, right? And so you want to try and do all these little tests to figure out what they're really like as a person. Because it's not like someone's going to be a tall scumbag on the weekend, and then 9 a.m. on a Monday they just flick a switch and all of a sudden they're a angel. It's like, it's just not how humans work, right? And so you want to figure out what people are like when they're not on webcam, right? The third thing you need is a scalable offer. This is very similar to the second one, which is like your calendar being linked to your money. For example, so I've told the story like a billion times on this YouTube channel, but when I had that DJ school, so we had like 2 in Perth, we had 2 in Sydney, and then 1 in Adelaide. The reason we had to go to Adelaide and Sydney was simply that we were just running out of people that wanted to be DJs in Perth, so I had to wait for more people to become 18. The other reason we couldn't scale that quickly either, because it was all in person. And so what happened was it was all in person and one-on-one. And so we had the like venues time, we had the instructors time, and then we had the students time. To deliver the offer, we had to hit the triple Venn diagram of all 3 of those, right? And so one way you can do that is like, I have Industry Set, which is for electronic music producers, but it's not a DJ course. It takes out the venue, and so the only time that needs to line up is the instructor's time, student's time. It's much easier to hit, right? Same with you. So like, we have a done for you arm of the business, but done for you would be much harder to grow than with you. With you was a workshop with 50 people at the same place at the same time for 2 days straight. Whereas for you was like, we've got to have like 1 ad specialist to 1 client, and then that ad specialist can only have so many clients because they're doing all the work for them. It's just a much lower leverage kind of opportunity there, right? And so you need to have a scalable offer. Like, if you're saying, you know, I've got a $1,000 subscription to work with me one-on-one, well, eventually you're just going to run out of space in your calendar, and so the offer has to change. Now, this is going to change whether you're like a, you know, info product or coaching or different industries and things like that, but you need to make sure you have a scalable offer that you can really like punch the gas on the thing. And then it's not that it's never going to break. Like, for example, we dialed back from $4,500 a day on spend to $3,000 a day on spend because I wanted to like improve the support at where we're at now before we like punch the gas again, right? And so you want to, it's not that it's never going to break or it's never going to start like breaking at the wheels, but you want to be able to punch the gas for a long period of time and then level out a bit and then go again. You don't want to go, punch the gas, I've got 4 clients, now I need to slow down because it's too much. You want to be able to like really, really rev the gas on the thing. So those are some of the lessons that I've learnt. There's a lot more, but those are the 3 kind of macro level lessons that I've learnt from scaling from $75 a day and spend to $4,500 a day and spend through webinars, call funnels, lead magnet ads, and see you in the next video.